Good evening, everyone. July 12th, 2022, Prescott BIA Board of Management meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Could I have an approval of the agenda, please? Pearl. Seconder, Kevin? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any declarations of interest tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. There are no delegations, no presentations. The minutes of the previous meeting, recommendation that the minutes dated May 12th, 2022 be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover?
I'll move.
Jeannie, a seconder? Dawn? All in favor?
Aye.
Committee reports, the promotions committee. Justin, did you want to give us a recap?
I can do that. So at the promotions committee, we discussed potential fall and winter promotions. I believe we spent a lot of time on a potential Apple-based fall promotion and some potential ideas concerning fundraising to do with that, but we're still sort of in the process of looking at what those can be. And we did not have a beautification committee meeting this month due to a lack of items on the agenda.
Thanks, Justin. If anybody has any ideas to put forth, we're thinking that the theme's going to be apples around Thanksgiving. Was it around Thanksgiving weekend, Justin, or in October anyway?
We were thinking about Thanksgiving, similar to last year's turkey based event.
That's kind of where we landed on a theme. So if anybody has any ideas, please feel free to bring them forward to the promotions committee. Okay, moving along. Did Belinda provide a financial report, Justin?
He did not, no.
Okay, so we'll have to skip over that tonight. Staff updates. Justin, take it away.
So I will go first here to share my screen. So I know that the first item up there was the passport, but I have a PowerPoint for the promenade, so we'll start there with that. So we had the first promenade on July 1st to 3rd. Were the technical dates, but we did have it opened on June 30th in the evening with the seating. So this was the substantive schedule for the first promenade. We had a farmer's market on July 1st. We had Cobbler J, who is a busker, on July 2nd, and Rockabilly Joe, a different busker, on the 3rd. So the July 1st market, we had 10 vendors, really filled up the street with those. A couple that don't ordinarily come, as well as most of the regular farmers market attendees. And we had Isabel Charbonneau was the musician, and she performed there from 11 to 2. Had an absolutely massive turnout for the farmers market. I don't think I've seen quite as many people go through possibly in an entire season at the other location compared to what happened going through there on July 1st. It was overwhelming at times, the number of people that made their way through. And as I'll talk about a little later on, it was something that was really positive for the vendors going through there as well. So there's just a couple more photos of some of the vendors and out and about. We also had that day a face painter and some children's activities. You can see them in the background over by the fountain. So the face painter was supposed to be there for 2 hours, and I think she sort of got cornered by the lineup into being there for close to 4. But the number of people that turned out there immediately was amazing. A couple more. So on July 2nd, we had Cobbler Jay. So he was a busker performing some street activities. Turnout started with about 15 people for his first performance at 11 o'clock, but by his third performance towards the end of the day, there was probably closer to 30 or 40 people coming down. I'll get to some of the Facebook stuff in a second, but we also started to see some people posting on Facebook. Make sure you get down to the promenade for the buskers. Now, on July 3rd, we had Rockabilly Joe, who, as you can see, took his shirt off quite a bit, and there was a fair amount of fire involved, but we had, I would estimate, probably close to 150 people came throughout the 3 performances that day to watch him down there, families, children, adults, people coming down just to sit in the chairs and then staying for the performance. So here's just some night photographs of the promenade lit up at night. You can see the chalk art down along the wall over there and the lighting and everything that went in, as well as the fire tables. So when there wasn't an event going on there, that was how it was set up, with the chairs and the fire tables. So we had, as I mentioned, universal positive feedback from the vendors at the farmers markets. People were coming up asking them if the market could always be at that location. People talking about, even when they were just coming in the morning and coming down Edward Street and seeing the setup, seeing that entranceway with the signage going down towards the fountain. People love that location. With a little bit more here. And then from the public feedback, we saw it across social media. People were commenting about the location, about having that open space, that public space, going through there, specifically about that. People were posting on the local Facebook pages, make sure you come down to catch the performer. Canada Day, just the aesthetics of it. People enjoyed seeing everything down there. So for our July, I guess it would be the August long weekend promenade, this is somewhat tentative. We'll probably be adding and shifting things around, but so we'll shut it down in the afternoon of July 29th. And we're hoping to have an evening market that day. That'll coincide with Shakespeare's Pay What You Can. So we won't have music there that night, but we'll be able to have a market where people can walk through before and after the play. On July 30th, Old Magic Shop will be hosting a Lammas celebration, which is a celebration of harvest. So they'll be having vendors, readers, and events down there throughout the day. On July 31st, we'll have a music day on the promenade. So we'll have Isabel Charbonneau back earlier in the day, and then Amanda Keeley, who was at the farmers market last week, will be there, and we'll try to line someone up for later in the day. And then on August 1st, we're going to have a bit of an art day there with drop-in classes by Studio Marnie, and she'll be doing rock painting. Chantel's Custom Creations, which will be doing glass mosaics. And we hope to line up a henna tattooist, face painting, and more for that day. So if anyone had any questions about that before I jump into the passport.
I was just going to say it was so interesting on the 1st to see the connections between the community center and the promenade. People were literally going back and forth, and positive comments all around. So it was interesting how that connection was made, and it's something that we should be mindful of going forward for sure, because whatever the mix was, it worked right that day. And as well too, lots of positive comments about the promenade and where it was and how much people liked it. And I'm just wondering, Justin, did you get any feedback from the downtown businesses themselves?
Well, we did get quite a bit of feedback from, for example, Old Magic, who loved that it was there, and has talked about the number of people that came around or back and forth between there and her shop. O'Heafy's seemed to benefit from it and enjoyed having it there next door as well.
And it worked out okay with O'Haveys?
Oh, yeah, there did not seem to be an issue there.
Did anybody else have any comments? Kevin, you were around there too.
Yeah, Teresa can go first.
Thanks, Kevin. I agree 100%, Trace, that it was a nice compliment from the Leo to the Promenade. I would, however, maybe next time not make it so conflicting as far as times go. You know, I know that's hard to avoid because the market was going on and the Leo event started at 11. But I agree that it was running parallel, but maybe if we wouldn't overlap it as much next time, might be a consideration. Thank you.
Kevin?
First question with, and I know we talked about it, with all the vendors, with the positive comments about it being there on the Saturday, I know there was brief discussions about trying to see about moving the market there on a regular basis. Is that something that can still be considered, or do we want to, I don't know how we go about that, but it just seemed to have a lot more oomph.
Yeah, I know. I'll just jump in here. Justin and I had a lot of after discussion about that. And, you know, I think a lot of that would hinge on council's appetite to see it become a more permanent installation, because for this year, we've received approval for the Canada Day weekend. And then we'll also be coming back to council with a request on their July 18th meeting, just to provide them with an update, kind of similar to what Justin's provided the board tonight. And just confirm, you know, that there's still an approval of us moving forward with the Civic weekend closure. But from there, we had a lot of discussion about, and based on the feedback we're getting, that there seems to be a desire for it to become a more permanent, maybe a July, August thing. And I think as part of that, there really needs to be a separate conversation about the market and looking at possibly relocating it to this area. Even just splitting it in between the two sites might be an option, because the feedback we have from the vendors was certainly supportive of that. They really love that space. And I think it brings a lot of people down that would normally see it.
Well, it's like catching off the bridge to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, there you
There
are.
it is. Yeah. The visibility that it offers there at the base of Edward Street, I think it really did. I would say probably 50% of the traffic that we had that day probably just happened upon it because of the location.
And wouldn't it be nice at Christmas time?
Yeah.
Christmas market there, right?
Market, fall.
Really nice, yeah, fall.
With this
Nice.
festival we were just talking about.
Is that something though, because it's a farmer's market, that's something more of a conversation though at town level, I'm assuming, versus.
Such a great.
Well, and with the vendors as well, too, you know, that's an important piece to it. They are certainly the heart of the market. And I think we want to ensure that we're satisfying the vendors and what their expectations are. And I think just based on the initial response, we're certainly getting a lot of support for looking at a relocation if it does get approved to be a more permanent activation.
That's all I got.
Anybody else? No. Okay, Justin?
All right, so I will. I'm just going to bring up the website for the summer passport. So we have the passports and all the materials were distributed for July 1st. So they're out at all the locations. We're still open to adding anyone who hasn't signed on yet as one of the shop, taste and explore. But we have a pretty good list. I was concerned about finding explore experiences, but we have a pretty long list of those, as well as a pretty comprehensive list of the taste and some shop locations. So we had, I believe, around 20 completed passports have come in already in the first week, and we did our first prize draw for $25 there yesterday, and the winner was announced and notified and was very excited for her 25 Prescott dollars. So we'll be doing a draw like that every week with the passports to get submitted, and then we'll have a grand prize draw at the end of the summer for the 500 Prescott dollar grand prize. So people have to go to 3 locations, a shop, a taste, and explore, and get a stamp for shopping, tasting, or exploring. And when they do, they can submit them down at the museum, which is also an explore location.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments about the passport program?
Did we have a list at each of our places? Because it's super handy to have a list of, for my clients, like just tell them they can go here to eat or here and here to eat and here to shop. And here's a list of possible places that are supporting this passport.
We can bring the list around, print out some. They can also scan that QR code that's on your explore, taste, and everything sign if they're a QR code scanner, and that'll take them right to that website as well. But we can bring around some lists too. And everyone who's participating should have up their icon sign. I hope you all got them up, but they should be up there. But we can get some lists around too.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to add? No? Okay, staff update, downtown parking space and road closures. Is that, I'm not sure who's doing that.
That's me. Thanks,
Okay.
Trace. Okay, so this is really just an information update. It was added to the agenda just in case the actual parking spaces changes hadn't happened, but they did happen this week. So that's essentially what I'm here just to update the board about, is the parking space closures that have taken place at the intersection of Center and King Street. So this is part of a recommendation that came out of a recent council meeting, just essentially directing staff to implement some recommendations that have come forward that in the hopes of improving some sightlines at King and Center. So they are also exploring some other intersections, King and George Street, for example. This is kind of the pilot intersection that's been selected for this. So I'm sure you've probably seen there's some bollards that have gone in. They are collapsible bollards. If God forbid someone does drive over them, they won't cause any damage, but these the spots are essentially going to be closed as a test to see if that results in some sightline improvements, reduction in some of the concerns and complaints that we're seeing coming out of people trying to navigate that intersection. So really just an update to the board tonight. Happy to take any questions or concerns back to our CAO or council and provide.
King and Center?
Yes.
And so what are you doing? Taking some of the parking spots away?
So there's actually, sorry, I did not upload the picture to share, but if you go to our Facebook page, it has been posted there. So there's a good infographic that shows you the exact spots that have been closed, but it's essentially the spots at the northwest corner of the intersection. So the 2 spots right in front of the visitor center and museum, the 2 spots at the southeast corner in front of H&R Block, as well as the 2 spots on Center Street, again at the southeast corner, that are in front of the Prescott Sub Shop. So they've closed those
On the screen
spots.
there now.
Oh, perfect. And Justin's got the screen shared right now.
Okay, so that
shows you there, it's 6 spots in total that they've closed, and it's really just to improve, hopefully, the sight lines, the turning radiuses that we have at that intersection, because it is a very busy spot. With
it is, yes.
And transports and pedestrians. So really just an update to the board to let you know what's happening and give the BIA an opportunity to raise any questions or concerns that they want me to take back.
And
I was just wondering if it would behoove to put the lights back in just at that intersection so we don't lose downtown parking instead of
taking away parking spots?
So this is really one of the first steps as the town kind of looks at options and tests out different options to address some of the concerns that have arisen in relation to the intersections. I would say at this point, certainly nothing is off the table, and we could take that suggestion back to council and staff for consideration.
I know personally, sorry, Les, I know something needs to be done along those lines because we
Sure.
get a lot of complaints
Yeah.
in our office about it.
I definitely agree. Definitely, no, even myself, it's hard to turn on that corner, really seeing anything visibly, cars coming at you on either side. My concern is more so for the businesses in those areas that parking will become tougher as hopefully we get busier within the town and with new businesses and people coming to shop, that parking spaces will become limited. So we might run into another issue.
And they are looking at potential adjustments that can be made to the crosswalks based on a study that's recently been done. Council is just in the process of reviewing that, so they haven't made any decisions one way or another. But we have received some initial costs, looking at those options. And to your suggestion, Leslie, to bring back a full-on traffic light intersection and complete replacement, we would be looking at a cost of about $1.5 million. So, it's certainly extensive, the cost to be looking at this, other modifications that would add some accessibility features such as chirping noises when the crosswalks are activated, tactile plates in the sidewalk, even what may seem somewhat, basic improvements, even that we would be looking at the cost of about $500,000. So council really wants to give this full consideration, and the parking space closure is really their kind of first attempt to address that, see what type of results we get from that, and then give further consideration to the recommendations that have been coming out of the report. So, that's why I say at this point, I don't think anything is off the table, but we're just certainly in the process of assessing some of those recommendations. And I do see we have members of council here, so I would certainly, if Brett or Teresa have anything to add, please do so.
Thank you, Dana. If I could, Tracy, Dana covered it very, very well, and it's very much has been a conversation over the years at the council table. It initially started, and Mayor Todd can correct me or add to what it initially started because the traffic light needed maintenance and the replacement, and the significant cost to that. What happened was a traffic study which didn't support a traffic light. Would you agree, Mayor Todd?
Yeah, this all goes back. I mean, a lot of that infrastructure is probably Korean War vintage down there. That's one of the reasons why it's as expensive as it is to do the replacements. This is something that really should have been looked at a number of decades ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And this is just something we've really got to catch up on. And unfortunately, the costs are there. But one of the reasons it wasn't just a cost factor, it was also that we had, I think, 4 traffic lights, full traffic lights within about 6 blocks. And when we did have the OPP review it with traffic numbers, the 3 of the 4, with the exception of Edward Street and King Street that we had looked at, 3 of the 4 didn't even come close to meeting the traffic volume. Myself, I've always kind of leaned towards keeping at least one of them down there, and did at the time. But with the numbers, with the traffic volume, it was a difficult argument to make. So I supported all of council, and we did vote to remove them. That said, I've been advocating for over a year now that we should go to a 4-way stop. Probably, although I'd want to see just to make sure MTO regulations and everything are clear on this, with a red flashing light in the middle of the intersection, as you see in a lot of similar intersections in both small towns and rural areas to let everyone know that it is a four-way stop. It's very prominent. It's not off to one side. It's right up front. I still think those parking spaces do need to be removed, though. If you take a good look at them, some of them are very close to the corner now. There's an accessible parking spot in front of the TD Bank that can't be more than 15 or so feet from that busy corner. So I think we're a little close to begin with on that. And I think the study that we just came to council at our last meeting indicated that as well. So I'm hoping the rest of council will support me on the four-way stops at King and George and King and Center with the possible addition of the red lights, flashing lights. We also did ask, I think Dana did mention those chirping alerts for people that have hearing issues. I see Brockville's got them everywhere now, even throughout the north end as well as the downtown. I think that's a good standard to move to. So we did, that did come up at the last meeting. Gail Gill actually talked about Councillor McConnell and I, so hopefully we'll get the numbers back on that at our meeting next week, and we'll move forward with something that's not $1 million, but when we discussed numbers the last time, I think a few of us did sort of agree that we'd have to spend more than the minimum on this, simply because it's a serious health and safety matter. I personally lean towards spending more, simply because I think it is a safety matter. There is a health issue with regards to pedestrians, both in the north end and the south end. We are growing. We're seeing more traffic coming through town all the time, and I think we really have to deal with it in a good and effective way. That could mean some of this work is done next year, but given the report that we have now that also sets forward that the town has liability in these areas, I think we need to put the money forward now and try to correct all these issues as soon as is humanly possible, starting with the main problems on King Street. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Did anybody else have any comments? Concerns? No? Okay, so we'll go to the committee roundtable, new business from members. And
Teresa,
yeah,
I just have a couple more items if I can.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Okay, sorry, Dana. I didn't.
No worries, no worries. Just a quick update. We'll be taking the decorative lighting report to council at their July 18th meeting. So that will be requesting approval from council to provide matching funding for the purchase of the lighthouse pole mounted lights. So cross your fingers. Hopefully we'll have a good update at the August meeting. But I think, we're very happy with the design that we're bringing forth. And I think it's something that council has expressed a desire to move forward previously, at least certainly our BIA board council members. And, I think it would go a long way towards adding some beautification to the downtown. So fingers crossed, hopefully I'll have a good update for you in August. And then quickly, one last item, as some of you are aware, because I did see you at the ceremony, we unveiled the new memorial plaque that is going to be installed adjacent to the anchor for Joanne Crack and the Prescott Anchor Facebook page, and her dedication to the ships and the celebration of the shipping industry and our community. So we unveiled the plaque, but we're having some discussions after the event to see what was desired for the actual ceremony itself, potential location. We're looking at a site adjacent to where the Peace Bell sits, right at the port of call, which I think is a fantastic location. It provides great visibility for the ships that are passing by. And there was some discussion internally, wanted to bring it forward to the BIA to see if there was some interest in the BIA taking the lead on more of the actual ceremonial planning and coordination. And if that might be something that's of interest to the BIA. You wouldn't have to do anything from a logistics standpoint. The anchor, the plaque, all that is being ordered and installed over the next couple of weeks. So it's simply a matter of the BIA would have the opportunity to take the lead on planning the actual event, coordinating some of the family invites, if there's anything special that we wanted to do during the ceremony, special invitees. And of course, you would have the support of town staff with the planning of that, but just thought that it might be something, given the BIA, I think the members have shown significant interest in ensuring that Joanne's memory is recognized and celebrated. So we thought it might be something that would be of interest to the members. So it's up to you if you would like to take the lead on coordinating something along those lines. And I haven't decided on a date at this point. We were thinking, around the area of Civic Weekend, early August. I think it might be nice to look at an early evening event similar to the community awards, just on a night, maybe in early August. So just putting that out there for consideration. And that's it for my updates.
Okay, thank you very much, Dana. Do we have any comments? Kevin, what do you think about?
It's not really that far off. I don't know if there's enough time to put something together that's nothing, because if there's nothing planned yet, it's not a lot of time.
Well, it's up to you. It wouldn't have to be necessarily. Sorry, Brett, did you say something?
Yeah, I asked to do this because there was an issue with contacting the daughters of Joanne, and I did notice that, and I reached out to them, and then I asked Matthew if we could do this, and I think it's a great tie-in with the BIA. I think the date has to be dependent on the family's availability, though, so I think we have to work with them. There was a miscommunication with between the two daughters, I believe, and no one's fault. It's just one of those things that I think they thought this was happening at a council meeting or something official and more formal rather than the outdoor ceremony. So I did offer that we could do something again, and this is be fantastic. I don't think we need a lot of representation from BIA, but I think it'd be great to have BIA there just to help celebrate Joanne's legacy and give greetings to her family members that'll be in attendance. But in terms of a date, I think it's going to have to be dependent on when the family can attend.
We'd be happy as staff to look after, coordinating that side of things. And really, for an actual, there really wouldn't be a whole lot of work, I wouldn't think, in the actual ceremony planning. It's really just more, who's going to take the lead on the promotions, some of the logistics, ensuring that the family and, other important attendees have been invited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because actually I think it's is it Amanda? I think
one of the daughters.
One of their daughters, yeah. She actually reached out to me the next day because I talked to her sister there 2 years ago when this was going on, and I got her in touch with Matthew. So yeah, she told me the same thing, that somehow they miscommunicated, and I don't know. Is it going to be a one-person thing, or is it?
Well, it would still very much be a town involved, of course, members of council would be key players, dignitaries, the family. It would just be more that the BIA, because I think, this organization in specific has shown, an interest in celebrating and ensure that Joanne receives the recognition that's certainly due to her. So I think it was more the thought that they thought the BIA might have some interest in taking it on. But if not, it is happening either way. It's just a matter of, what group really wanted to kind of take the lead and really put your touch and spin on it. If you had some ideas to contribute to the actual ceremony itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd like to be involved in some way. Just I don't have the time to maybe take a lead, but if I could participate in some way, I'd like to.
Well, the biggest thing I think probably, which we just figured out, is that getting at least the two girls on the same page and then going from there.
Yeah, make sure that we select a date that works for them first and foremost. And then, really, I think collaborating with them, it's that kind of ongoing collaboration with the family to ensure that their wishes are being honored and what their expectations are around the event. And I think that would be, a good area that the BIA could take a lead on. And then we would be ensuring as staff that all those logistics are happening and that the anchor and the plaque are installed. All the important pieces.
Next week, we have our event and promotion meeting. Could we discuss more of it at that point? Get a game plan going. Once we find the date, then we can implicate it.
Yeah, I think that's personally a great suggestion.
I don't mind reaching out to both the girls if I can get both their, well, I have Amanda's. I don't have her sister's anymore, but I think Matthew might have it, but
Yeah, we
get
can
both their
get you
information.
there.
I can at least get them on the same page and,
Yeah.
or start, it's like, if you want to be involved, I can start a chat online with everybody and at least get there. But yeah, we can talk about it through the promotions thing and figure it out a little better. Because obviously we can't figure it out right at this minute in time, but
No, really just to see if there's interest on the part of the BIA, you know, having a more, some more involvement in the actual planning of the ceremony.
yeah, like as you said though, like if everything is in place, it's just a matter of getting people, whoever wants to talk and I'm sure there's some people.
Exactly, and
So,
town will still deal with all the logistics. It's really just a matter of kind of taking the lead on coordinating the key
yeah, well,
people and ensuring everyone's wishes are.
who's on the promotions committee? Me, Tracy,
Me, right?
Leslie.
On,
Yes.
no, Leslie's on the committee.
You're on beautification, sorry.
Vice versa.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
wouldn't, well, we can include her, but she wouldn't be able to be at the meeting, right? Because that's too many people. But yeah, we can figure something out at the meeting. I
Just let
think.
me know.
Yeah. Do you need a motion on this or something?
Well, Tracy,
I don't think so. I think what we'll do perhaps, Kevin, why don't you get the contact information for the two girls and then we can discuss it further at
Yeah,
the promotions meeting.
Yeah,
Go from there.
because there will be more people who would want to take part and be involved. So, yeah, okay. Yep.
So yes, Dana, leave that in our hands and we'll get back to you.
awesome.
Yeah, we'll
Appreciate it.
talk about it next week and yeah.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, so we'll move along to the committee roundtable, new business from members. And so this was something that I was bringing forward, talking about the a response to homelessness in the downtown BIA service area. And I just thought it was good to know that we want to be sure that people that are experiencing homelessness in the BIA service area are being supported, of course, and that they have access to food and transportation to a safe place in the event, you know, if there's a significant weather event or something like that. But I also thought it was really important for us to know, and myself, I mean, it's a learning curve for me too, that services for people who are experiencing homelessness, it's purely voluntary. The services can't be pushed on anyone. So I just thought that we probably would be interested in being part of a very positive response. And what are the steps? Like, we're not sure about protocols, or we're not sure what the town has in terms of processes and stuff like that. And just indicating that we love to be part of the response in a positive way, and part of any discussions that may be ongoing at the town level, or maybe there's a community advisory board. I'm not sure. Maybe Mayor Todd, would you know anything that could provide us some resources?
Apologies, Tracy, I just had a email from my other work. I just was responding too quickly. I caught most of that, though. You're asking for information on the help that can be offered with regards to.
Well, we just weren't sure what the town had, or is there a community advisory board that the town's part of? Like, just what processes and protocols are involved, and how we can be part of a positive response and possibly be part of discussions.
With regard to the homeless situation with the. It's a difficult thing for the BIA. I mean, I'm all for BIA involvement in certain ways. It's just very challenging though, because there are certain issues involved in it. And as you mentioned, anyone in that situation generally has to accept the help as well. And that's really been the challenge here. When this situation first arose, it actually began back by the high school when I responded to some concerns from parents that had their children in soccer. and made the offer to reach out, because we have been working to ensure that we don't have tent cities in Prescott these past couple of years by offering assistance and so forth. And that's always the first way to go about it. But we also want to avoid a situation like Brockville found themselves in, where there was an ongoing encampments, and then you're dealing with winter, you're dealing with all sorts of health risks to those in the encampments, safety risks. So we've done a really good job on that by offering assistance. But basically what we work with United Counties of Leeds and Grenville on that through joint services. That's the whole social services arm. So of course, counties has some spaces available. That's where the funding is rooted through our contributions there through joint services. So that's sort of the first outreach. OPP have been of great assistance, so have Connect Youth. But it's a challenging situation simply. And I really admire the fact that you've come forward to offer the assistance, but I'm kind of at a loss for what exactly the BIA would do, simply because it is such a sensitive matter. And quite frankly, there are huge limits on what we could do as a municipality as well, if the individual or individuals in question don't want to accept the assistance. And that has been offered in this case many, many times. And even Connect Youth, I believe, came forward and had shelter in this case. And that actually happened a couple of years ago with some other people who were living in a little tent, little encampment in various locations in the North End. So I'd love to hear if anyone else has any offers. Maybe I'm just not thinking along those lines tonight. Teresa's probably got something that's a lot better than I just offered, but it is something we all need to work on as a community. So I think whatever we can do to work together on it, I'm all for. I just, for offering concrete things, I just at a bit of a loss right now. Teresa may have something.
Not at all, Mayor Todd, but just a little bit.
Save me there, come on.
I can't add anything to what you said. I did reach out to, with our most recent situation, I did reach out to Sean Merriman as a portfolio lead council rep for bylaw and ECDEV, and he explained exactly what you explained, Tracy, that it is voluntary, of course, and he wasn't breaking any law, and we had to be very, very cognizant of that. And I wanted to make sure that the town of Prescott, through Sean, was very familiar with United Counties, as Mayor Todd touched on, that our social services has so many resources at their disposal if people want to take advantage of it. So I just wanted to ensure that Sean was familiar with all of those, which he was in the end. So so not really answering your question, but as far as bylaw goes, the town does get involved.
Tracy, if I could just add really quick to that, just following Teresa's point, it just reminds me of, and this is, it's not the way I think you want the BIA to be involved here. And I'm not suggesting that it has to be as part of an enforcement measure or whatever, but there is a situation as well where you do have, I'm not sure too many businesses would appreciate someone encamped right in front of their front door 24/7 or whatever. And there is something, and I did ask staff to look at this a little while ago when this issue first arose, because we want to be fair to our businesses as well. Obviously, can be a key factor here. It's hopefully we can help people that are in need, but at the same time, we do have to look out for our businesses. And we don't have a loitering bylaw on the books. And I did ask staff to look into that so we could, something that we actually have to help enforce that if there ever is a situation where, someone is actually really impacting on a business being able to be able to open to customers and so forth, because obviously that can be a concern as well. So that's going to come forward to council in the not too distant future as well. And that's maybe something that BIA could have some input on, because obviously there's a real role there. A big part of that would be, of course, to protect our businesses with regards to issues like this, or even other sorts of things that might arise where dissatisfied customer, what have you. So it's always good to have the tools. Not to say we're always going to use them, but it's always good to have the tools there, so at least you've got something to rely upon if you're forced into a situation. Sorry, Teresa just reminded me of that when she mentioned.
No, that's great. And I think I was kind of more thinking too about the whole communication, because people, they come up and say, okay, what's going on, da, da, da. And often the BIA isn't apprised of, things that are being done behind the scenes. And I just more or less are trying to open up the lines of communication as well.
That's actually an excellent point, and I'll just leave that one for staff, that on items like this that do directly affect the downtown, and this is clearly one of them. Perhaps Mr. Merriman could pop into one of these meetings and give quick bylaw updates when there is something that's directly impacting on the downtown, or if the board would like to hear from Mr. Merriman, because he does come regularly to our PSB meetings. And that's actually been an addition these last 3 or 4 years. And it's actually quite helpful because it does kind of combine policing matters with bylaw concerns and gives a forum so everybody's sort of on the same page of what's happening with issues that go across both areas of responsibility. So Tracy, that's an excellent point. And I just leave it with the board that to make that request, to have Mr. Merriman come forward, because it'd be really good to hear directly from him. And just ask staff to keep an eye on that too, as everyone's working together to make the agendas, just to make sure that could be added as a semi-regular part of a BIA meeting. That's actually an excellent point.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have any?
I just have a question. Does Prescott have like a cooling or warming station, not just for homeless, but for the seniors that can't afford air conditioning, etc.?
We have offered in the past on a very limited basis when we've had extreme heat issues. But as Teresa mentioned as well, most of that is really coordinated through the United Counties. I'm not trying to pass the buck there, but we are a full partner in joint services. That includes social services, land ambulance, and provincial offenses matters, and social housing, of course, as well. So a lot of that is coordinated through the counties, and we do work with them and incidents like that. And it's a good point to be better prepared for that, though, as we seem to be getting to, not so much this summer, but we have had some real extreme heat issues in recent years, and you've got to think that's going to be more part of the landscape as we move forward with climate change.
Okay, did anyone have anything to add?
Something I noticed just in reviewing the actual guide itself, I wonder if there would be any, or if it is maybe in progress of being developed, just a couple of things like tools that they were suggesting that you could look at actually developing and distributing throughout the BIA area. One would be a who to call list. So if there are, as these incidents are arising, whether it be someone required for outreach, if there's garbage or abandoned belongings left in the downtown, if you need, if you discover needles or something to that effect in the downtown core, like who do you call up to deal with these situations? And then something else I found really interesting was there was a recommendation to develop a homelessness resources guide. So essentially a guide that provides you with, different resources actually for that person who has fallen on hard times, whether it be a place to get a hot shower or a warm or a cold room, or, public washrooms, even a place for temporary accommodations, meal programs. So, I'm wondering even is that something that the joint services group is actively working on? Would you be aware of that, Mayor Todd? If that's something that they're looking at, is there something that we could be doing as a BIA to even encourage maybe that those things be developed? Or is that something we could be taking a lead on locally and developing?
Probably something, Dana, we could take the lead on locally with that. When you first were speaking, I thought it was more of a local thing, just relating to connecting businesses with assistance directly here in the town of Prescott. But something with a more regional approach would be good as well. And quite frankly, we haven't been that heavily involved in it. And the community safety plans, that is something that is, I believe we're still in the process of full development with the town. That was done in conjunction with the counties, but we're on our own with that. That was were the provisions of how we'd start that. So that's something that could be tied in as well, depending on how far you want to take this. But I just thought it connects to what Tracy was saying about communication, because that's always king. And just to make sure all business owners through the BIA would have, maybe there's a good case that the BIA prints up little rat card kind of things and gives them to every business owner, so they could keep it right by the cash and right by the front counter. So if there is an incident with whatever, they know exactly who to call for municipal services, that go beyond emergency services, like, calling the OPP and so on. So there's the bylaw, building department. That's actually a pretty good idea. And it could also be as, hey, welcome to your BIA. This is what we provide. There could be a little preamble at the top of it from and from your BIA, and here's some some numbers and some email. That'd be kind of an interesting thing to give out to everyone, and it would be cheap to print. So, and it could really help with communications overall. Can't hurt.
Yeah, like even for residents, I was thinking, I even found myself driving by the one day and thinking I would love to help or do something, but just not knowing where to turn or what the right assistance is, or if you do see something, who to call, because not everything seems like it's a police emergency, right?
We've done it at different times in the past, but I don't think we've done it. Teresa, I don't know if you remember, we did it the odd time. We used to send stuff out to the RSL bills, but it's actually just little things you can stick in your fridge. Brockville did it for years, and I don't know if Brockville still does it or not. We don't have property up there anymore, but Brockville did it for a long time. And it was always quite handy. You just throw it in the fridge every year, and it's got your garbage pickup days on it. It's just one big page of all the basic information. But for like BIA purposes, a little smaller document like that, just so everybody could keep, because not everybody, you might not be there. You've got a employee there that just doesn't know these things, and not a bad thing to have as a quick reference, but not a bad idea, I guess. So communication, I think it would help.
For everyone else, the toolkit that we're referring to, I'll have Justin send the link out for that, because there's a lot of interesting information. One of the other things they discussed was having a porta potty project day for like 60 to 90 days when the public washrooms are actually closed, to see if there's a need for that, and suggesting to do it on a very limited basis to see what kind of response we got. Because I know the public washrooms are closed at a certain time of day, like at the marina, and as well, I think at the pool. So
8 o'clock.
like possibly there'd be that's something else that we could look into.
I'm going to jump in again. We've been talking a lot about this just down on the waterfront. Like, it's a constant request, whether it be divers that are coming into the community that have no washroom facilities. We've run into this on several occasions with, even some of our events, our farmers market, even, those vendors don't have a place to use, a public washroom facility, depending on, where the market is located. Even on Sunday nights, we were noticing our new pop-up lighthouse vendor has been getting a lot of visitors coming in there, and there's a lot of people attending concerts and plays that let out, and come 8 o'clock, those washrooms are closed at the marina. So there is nowhere to find a public washroom in the downtown core without going and bothering a business and feeling obligated to buy something. And that's just not something that's going to be able to accommodate 50 people looking to use a washroom after a play, right? So, I know there's just been lots of discussion internally over the past few years about, is there something that we could put down by the port of call in the Riverwalk district? Yeah, maybe a porta potty, but something tasteful, like with a shelter around it that's decorated nicely, so it's got some aesthetic appeal and doesn't scream out, I'm a porta potty in the middle of a public park. But maybe there's something along those lines, and there's funding. I'm sure we could probably source some funding out there to support some sort of an installation that could be a combination public washroom, diver change area for anyone who happens to be swimming or using the water or the facilities down there.
And an outside shower thing,
maybe even like a little outside shower. Just I would think really to the tune of maybe $15,000, you could probably do something that looks pretty pretty decent down there and would provide at least something after hours. Not a full-on plumbed public washroom per se, but
If I can just touch on that really quickly, it's actually something I think that BIA should probably look at as a long-term strategy. It's something the town tried to deal with when we did Riverwalk, but because of the contaminated soil and the issues with the parking lot, we were going to put a building in down there. It was going to be spectacularly expensive to do so, so we pulled back on that. Then the next step was the idea of possibly building something on the back of the Forters Museum as part of a restoration of that entire building as well. So there'd be washrooms, change facilities for divers. Would have been a really nice addition there. Then we had the engineering studies back on that. Plus that site is contaminated as well. So that got taken off the table. Long story short, there is a need for public washrooms in the downtown. We do have the museum down there now. Obviously, there are restrictions in the opening times. So maybe we can work with something like that to offer greater coverage. But it is something the BIA might want to look at for sort of a long-term proposal, whether something needs to be built. There's got to be some way to build. It wouldn't be a porta potty. You build a little structure that's got the chemical toilets and everything built in. So it just looks like a little building, but it would be a significant expense. You'd have to decide exactly where you would put it. But it is probably something BIA should look at long-term. It is something the town was looking at for a number of years, but because of the reasons I just mentioned, we weren't able to get it done.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Any new business from anyone else?
Hey,
Kevin?
hey, Tracy. Hi, Tracy. No, I got two things actually that's not could be related to the homelessness thing, but it's also part of the porta potty thing. I don't know. I go to a fair amount of concerts. I've been to a few where there's actually, it's basically a trailer. And inside the trailer, you have bathrooms, you have showers, and these things are actually phenomenal. Like some of them are actually nicer than bathrooms I've seen in houses. Like I don't know what the cost of those are, but just as a back of the head sort of thing, just putting that out there.
I just happen to know of a provider.
Yeah, there you go.
Could maybe engage with.
Yeah, they're actually quite interesting. And I get the same thing. I get a lot of people asking to use the bathroom and I have to direct people to other places. And plus, that being said, the bathrooms, I think the public bathrooms in town also should be open earlier in the season and probably later, because I know there was a lot of people asking for bathrooms prior to, I can't remember when they opened, end of May, something like that. And yeah, I had tons of people asking for bathrooms like a month ago. So anyways, just a bug in your ear. I'm just also curious too, and I just kind of want everybody to know this. In the past few months, I have had experience in conversations with 3 business owners looking to open a business in downtown Prescott. All 3 business owners did not move into Prescott, all for the same reason. And that is, there is no place suitable to rent. And by suitable, I mean usable, functional. You can't walk in the door and do something. This seems to be a constant problem. And I know we have the vacant registry, building registry thing going. But my curiosity is, and this doesn't have to be discussed tonight, but if we can come to another meeting, how do we deal with this? And we have bylaws in place that are supposed to aid with this issue, but yet nothing is ever done. And we all know it's a problem. All of us do. All of us at this table, most of the town knows it. But my question is, how do we deal with it? We have business owners who go somewhere else to open a business because we don't have a place for them. That's all I have to say about that, actually. But if this can come to a meeting for a discussion, and I think Mayor Todd mentioned the right thing, having Sean Merriman here was probably not a bad idea, and having a discussion with him. Because that's a problem. When you know there's business owners not coming here because of that, that's a problem.
Kevin, when you say, do you mean by not being able to walk in the door and start up business, do you mean they can't do it because what? There's lack of plumbing, there's lack of electricity, there's lack of what? Like, what is it?
Lack of
They have to-
walls, lack of floors, lack of electricity, lack of water, you name it. A business owner like myself and most of us, we don't have $100,000 to walk into a space and renovate. We just don't. Most of us spend every dime we have just to open a door. I mean, the money I make goes towards my living. I mean, I barely have money. I don't have renovations to do, but I know there's business owners that you just don't have that kind of bankroll. And there's between spaces that have been there for a long time with owners who have been there a long time, that have storefronts that honestly just look like crap. Between that and business owners who have purchased and just not doing anything with their spaces, that needs to be dealt with. And when you're losing potential businesses because of it, that spreads. People will say something to another business owner and another business owner. And then we get the reputation I hear it a lot. Same old downtown. And I hate hearing it with a passion because I know something can be done about it. But the problem is what can be done and when can it be done?
Dana, when are the CIP amendments coming out that you were talking?
So we expect those to be approved by early September if all goes well. So that would certainly provide some additional funding through loans and grants that would be available to both property owners and commercial tenants.
Okay, so
And I
like,
would,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so that would lend itself to tenants being able to get a grant, like to do improvements?
Certainly, yeah, and there
Okay.
will be additional funds under the CIP that weren't available before. It is still a matching funding thing, so the businesses certainly still have to come up with their own portion of those dollars, or the commercial property owner. But it's certainly, it's certainly no lack of incentives that we provide here within the town to encourage these improvements to happen. And with the new vacancy registration bylaw, it is in the process, I would say, the early stages of just being implemented. So I'm very hopeful that we are going to see some positive change coming out of that. I think it does need a bit more time to have the opportunity to be fully implemented, but I certainly don't, argue that we need more turnkey spaces in the downtown. It is a problem.
Mayor Todd?
Yeah, just CIP and the vacant property bylaw. The vacant property bylaw was passed at the end of last year, Teresa, and we gave it a 6-month period of time to come online, and I think it did. Is it June 1st or July 1st? I know we got the heads up at council as anticipating the potential complaints that could be rolling in, but that is up now. So those letters, I believe, have gone out. So there will be penalties applied with regards to vacant properties. CIP, we've got one of the most aggressive community improvement programs in the province. From what I know, we've given a pile of money out. We're around $500,000, and we're what, Dana, over $10 million in investment on that $500,000.
Yeah.
So it's been successful. One of the issues though we've got with the downtown is people that want smaller spaces. That unfortunately has been one of the ongoing issues, because smaller space is smaller income, so less incentive to renovate. We're hoping the CIP will continue to break that log jam, but it is an issue, and there are 3 or 4 well-known spots. They're also the most unfortunate fact we've got downtown now is the biggest stores down there, with the exception of Peter's, are all empty or under renovation, or both. You've got Pet Value moved to the north end, open and also quite expensive. You've got Circle K open as well when they pulled out, and that wasn't just a Prescott thing. They closed a few in Eastern Ontario during COVID. That's empty and also quite expensive as a rental, and it doesn't fit a lot of, like, I'm sure the businesses you're talking about, Kevin, would not want to go into places that large, because those are maybe not completely turnkey. I would imagine at least Pet Value would be. And then you've got Boomers, which has been under renovation for quite some time. That's part of it's a COVID situation. Part of it is obviously an owner's decision to focus more efforts down at O'Heafey's. So it's a problematic issue. We've thrown as much as I think we can legally do as a municipality, aside from going down and buying properties ourselves and getting into that line of things. And I'm not, hell, if I'd had unlimited power a few years ago, there's probably one property downtown I would have purchased but we did manage to work it out anyways. That's the Daniels lot, and we did get that. That's a significant investment. We still have an issue on the other side, and of course, the other side is open now too, since we had to demolish that other property. But it is moving forward. It's not as fast as any of us would like, and we do have some major properties down there that need attention. And unfortunately, all those larger properties are open right now. I think there needs to be some redevelopment there to accommodate development and new tenants, and that's going to be a question, because some of that's going to be well beyond what we can do as a municipality, because you're talking 6-7 figures for some of that work, I would guess.
So my question is, though, and we're naming properties. So let's take Springer's building for example. That place has looked like that since I moved here, with the exception of H&R Block now, and it looked like that before I moved here. And I've been here 6 years now. How hard is it for someone to call them and say, hey, you have to clean that up and at least make it look like something? Clean your windows, clean the inside spaces up. Like, you don't have to renovate it, just make it look decent. We have bylaws that say that you have to keep a place clean. I don't see why that is that hard, but that's.
Well, you're talking about a limited number of places down there too. Let's not get into the point where we're acting like every second storefront is like that. The downtown, actually, if you take a drive through there, it looks quite good. There are a few properties that are issues, but the Springer building alone is a testimony to the success of this council and staff, because that's dramatically improved in the last year and a half. And a lot of that was due to direct intervention from our staff. Also, obviously, the hook was the H&R Block development, I believe. But I mean, we've seen some dramatic changes there. It is difficult, though. Downtowns, I would say, and I'm not trying to make an excuse here, but it's just a fact. You see it in Brockville, and you sure see it in Kingston, too, where you've got landlords, absentee landlords, that have walked away from a brick and mortar and traditional retail, and they're converting everything to residential. And I think we're going to see more of that. I mean, even that Circle K lot, I have no idea what the future of that building is, but I certainly could see it being developed more for residential than I could for commercial purposes, simply because, take a look around, folks, brick and mortar's in trouble across the entire Western world. COVID only accelerated what we all know was already happening. I'd love to see the downtown look like it did in 1985 again. Hell, I'd love to go down to Jimmy's Smoke Shop, buy my magazines and my comic books like it was 1985 again, but it's not going to happen. So, and that's something I have mentioned to BIA, and I applaud Kevin for bringing this up. There's got to be a real look at the BIA level. We talked about this. I remember raising this 3 or 4 years ago. Come up with a philosophy of what downtown Prescott looks like as we move further into the 21st century, and as we move into what in many ways is going to be a post-retail landscape. It's not going to be like it was before, simply. And the other part is, a lot of those businesses don't exist. I remember when we had 2 bookstores downtown and like 3 jewelers. Good luck finding that today. Even a shoe store, like their shoe stores are hard to find anymore. So I mean, but I think the BIA could play a real role in that, in working with the town on what the vision is for downtown Prescott, because I fully believe you can bring back a downtown that is thriving, but it's going to look different. You can't reinvent. You can't go back. we have to look forward on it. And it's not just going to be about revisiting the past. But I would open to hear any ideas and work with the BIA in any way, shape, or form on that. But there has to be a philosophy set there. So there's some vision for what people want to see in the downtown. And that's a great discussion. I know Kevin's got lots of ideas, so I'd be happy to hear from them at a BIA meeting or at a council meeting or whatever the BIA wants to do. We're all in this together, and we've got to just come up with a plan and really work at it. In terms of going after businesses, though, that are unclean windows and so on, that is happening more and more. There's always been that issue, though, when you're dealing with absentee landlords, getting a hold of them, applying fines and so forth to people that they're not able to put money into their buildings now, throwing added costs onto them. That was part of the reason for the vacancy bylaw as well. So we're working at it, and I think we've made some progress, but there's obviously a long way to go. And I'd be happy to have the BIA play a bigger role there.
Thank you. Is there anyone else would like to add anything? Any comments, concerns? No? Can't see everybody, but. Okay, did anybody else have any new business before we close for the night? No? Okay, I'll make a motion. Would somebody like to make a motion for adjournment? I can't see the table, it's too.
Pearl is.
There we go, there we go. Kevin, seconder?
Yep.
Somebody like to second the adjournment?
I'll
Pearl?
second.
Oh, okay. I thought I was.
All in
second.
favor?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Next meeting is the promotions committee meeting. And Justin, would you mind sending that link out for the toolkit?
Yes. Send that
Perfect.
around.